Hey Bionicle fans, this is Krolix from the BIONICLEsector01 wiki here with the BS01 podcast. Kelly, also known as Binkmeister, joined us for the first part of the show, including the following interview which we decided to release as a separate podcast. So enjoy the interview, it was certainly very insightful and interesting. To continue listening to us discussing Bionicle, download episode 5. Thanks.
Gathered friends, listen again to
The BS01 podcast. Doric, Kairu, Swert, and myself here with an interview with Binkmeister, also known as Kelly McKiernan. Sorry, is that how you pronounce your last name?
That's close enough for me. It's been massacred, so I'll accept that. Here we go.
Awesome.
Well, thank you once more for joining us on this podcast. Hopefully we've got some good questions lined up for you here. I'll start out with, what is your job at LEGO?
My job at LEGO is currently Internet Content Manager for Construction. Construction is defined as constructible action figures. Currently this is Ben 10, this is Bionicle, and as you've probably heard, coming up it's also Hero Factory.
How are you enjoying that so far?
Pretty good. It's basically the same job I've been doing for the last 2.5, coming up on 3 years now, believe it or not, ever since August of 2007. But it's good. It's gone through some changes. There have been some organizational changes, worked for different people now, but still working with the same team, pretty much.
Good. Yeah, August 2007 was right around where I joined BS01, actually.
Seems to be an auspicious date.
So, wait, before I actually ask the next official question, you will actually be working on Hero Factory then?
Yes, I will be working on Hero Factory. I'm actually eyeball deep in putting it together right now and getting the websites ready.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, official question time. So what exactly was it like, going from just being a fan, deeply ingrained in its roots, to actually being an employee of LEGO? I mean, what was that experience like?
It was kind of a surreal experience. It was a life change. Honestly, it was a huge difference. Not only was it changing jobs, going to work from one company to another, I was changing where I lived. I was changing the continent where I lived. I actually moved from the U.S. Over to Denmark for a year and a half. So it was a major, major deal for me. Leaving everything I knew behind. And there was also the idea in the back of my head that, what if it's not the dream job that I'd always thought it was? When you're an AFOL, you kind of banter around with your fellows thinking, oh, well, it'd be great to be able to work for LEGO. I'd love that. That'd be the perfect job for me. But then maybe you get in and you look around and you see, well, maybe there's some warts in here. This is a company like any other. It's not Willy Wonka's chocolate factory where you can dive into the pool of molten chocolate anytime you want. Having said that, it is very satisfying. It remains kind of as close to my dream job as I could get. Nothing's perfect, but LEGO as a company, I still actually hold a lot of respect for, which I've worked for several companies in the past where you'd think they'd be pretty good, but you get in and you start seeing the blemishes underneath the ugly, ugly exterior, and it's just not worth it. LEGO remains worth it. LEGO, I think, is a very good company to work for. I'm very pleased to continue working for them, and I'm very happy that they're letting me continue my job. Even after my initial 8-month stint was up, they let me continue, pretty much in the same role.
When you had to relocate, were you able to take your family with you?
My family was offered to come along, but my wife at the time was hesitant. She was really uncomfortable about that, bringing kids over to a different country, which I completely understand. So we agreed that since it was only going to be an 8-month thing, that I would go ahead and just go over by myself. But we kept in constant contact, and I had daily calls with my kids, and we set up Skype and had the webcam, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that must have been a hard decision, but at least you got the life-size Ignika out of the deal, right?
Yeah, I did. I got that life-size Ignika, and it's hanging on my wall downstairs, plugged in with the little lights glowing in the eyes. It's really pretty spectacular. The way I got that was after 16 months of working in Denmark, I had decided that I needed to come back to the U.S., so they let me keep my job, which was pretty wonderful. And second of all, they gave me a little going away party, which I didn't expect. And they gave me a couple of things, and one of them was some initial artwork for the Toa Motunui, the big $50 set. They gave me the artwork from that, with a bunch of people had signed stuff on the back, which was really nice.
wow.
And they knew that I just coveted after that mask. I lusted after that mask. It was built for a sales meeting, and it was just hanging there. And every time I passed by it, my hand would kind of extend a little bit. So they knew that, and I had no idea, but they gave that to me. They handed that over to me at that little party, and I was floored. It was the nicest thing, and that's the kind of people that I work with, and that's the kind of people that I really like working with. And I continue to work with those people on that team, and I'm very happy about that.
That's really cool.
It's good to hear that you work for somebody that you can really enjoy that much. That's a great thing to have, to actually enjoy the people you work with. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. On that subject, have you worked on any non-Lego or Bionicle websites? Any other websites?
Oh, yeah, I've worked on quite a few. I've worked on many, probably way too many to list, but I've been doing internet work from 1994 to the present, so that's 3/4 of the life of the web. I've been actually doing stuff. Started off as a web designer, I did the first version of lawyers.com, and that made it into, I think, 1996's, Yahoo's 50 most insanely useful websites list. So that was pretty good.
Nice.
I did that. I was the internet director at a company called Digimarc, which did digital watermarking. I worked for Intel with their networking group and was responsible for a lot of all the content on intel.com/network, and that was a few thousand pages. I've done websites for friends. I've done websites for print shops, all sorts of other things like that. But basically, I've worked my way through just about every job you can think of having to do with the internet. Designer, programmer, developer, database, content, management, all that kind of stuff.
So how exactly were you introduced to the world of Bionicle?
There's a funny story about that. My kids were right at the right age to be entranced by Bionicle when it came out in 2001 in the U.S. We had bought a Lego set. I was a Lego AFOL at that point, and so of course my kids always got Lego sets. So we bought one, and it had this flyer for this new thing called a Toa. And they pretty much pounced on that and went, "Daddy, we want." So Daddy got. That was actually my first purchase on Lego Shop at Home website, was buying Anua and Tahu. And the rest I waited until they actually were in the stores later on in 2001, because this was very early in 2001. At the same time, they had a flyer for Build Your Own Bionicle Website contest. And I'm thinking, I build websites for a living. I'm a Lego guy. This looks kind of cool. And this will give me an opportunity to kind of show my creative side. I'd seen in the local newspaper somebody had created these kind of faux fossils by using very fine sand and water and using impressions to pour plaster or Paris into, and coming up with instant fossils. So I thought that would be a good thing to do. So I came up with the expedition to Motunui, which basically it was a report from a team of scientists that had gone to the island of Motunui and dug up all these fossils. And it was a 4-page website, and I had lots of pop-ups and lots of images and lots of Photoshop work and things like that. And I've still actually got several of those plaster casts lying around of different Toa. I think I used Kopaka as the most visible one. He came out really well. That website is sadly no longer online, but I do have all the files. I submitted it, and I thought, okay, well, there's other people that are going to be interested in this. I wonder who else has done stuff. So I went online trying to find other people who've done this, but LugNet at the time was openly hostile to Bionicle, so I discovered this little thing called BZ Community that the guy named John Reddick had put together, and I joined it. After a little while, I became staff. Bionicle Rex invited me, and he said, 15 minutes a day. It'll take you 15 minutes a day. He lied so bad to me. 15 minutes. Took over my life. At any rate, it didn't help that I had just gotten laid off from Digimarc in late 2001, October of 2001, right after 9/11. So I was kind of at loose ends and had time to dig into this stuff. So at that point, I'm a moderator on BZ Community, later BZ Power, and became one of the principals in putting together BZ Power with 3 other people. So I did all the back-end programming for BZ Community for the news. I was the main news guy. And then it just kind of went from there. So, it's been a really nice process working my way from kind of what's this flyer inside a box to, actually running the official website and going beyond that. It's kind of an interesting arc. And there's a lot more there, a lot more than we have time for. But, it's deeply satisfying, yet at some point a little bit scary that I have this legacy to live up to. I feel like I need to make sure that I put this to rest properly. In fact, one of my best friends in the whole world now is Leah Weston Coe, who started the Bionicle website. So I feel like not only do I have to live up to the fans, I have to live up to her. And so far, I think I have. I hope I have.
Yeah.
But it's been a challenge. How's that for a 50-cent answer for a 5-cent question?
It was good.
No, your answers are great. I mean, this is really interesting. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Doric, Kyra, and Swirt. I got to get some other staffies in here to ask Pink some questions, but hopefully we'll see you later on the show.
We all want jobs, so keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, put in a good word for us, please. That would be nice.
No problem.
All right. For our second half of the interview with Binkmeister/Kelly, I've got Triggy, KZN02, and myself here.
Okay, if you were never introduced to Bionicle, how do you think your life would be different?
My life would be completely, very much different. It would be very different. I would never have gone to Europe to live for a year and a half. I would never have gotten the opportunity to meet a lot of the friends that I've met online, to really get involved with a lot of people who really take this passionately and are very deeply involved with a lot of things that touch a lot of different places. If I hadn't gotten involved with Bionicle, I'd probably still be, working for a technology company in the U.S., probably not enjoying it very much, kind of wondering when my next vacation was going to come by, probably still being, a dad, having fun with my kids, kind of like what I do now, but it would not have involved the opportunity to really play with them and be involved with them as much as I have been. When they were of the Bionicle age, they were just eating that stuff up because Daddy knew a lot of people who knew a lot of things, and they got some stuff out of it. My youngest son was really into it, and he got to hear the ending of Bionicle, a year before everybody else did, about what was going to happen with it. He got to hear about the robot rising, which happened at the end of 2008. So they were very proud of Daddy for being able to be a part of that, and that enriched my life as well. So I think I would be in a very different place in my life if I hadn't been exposed to Bionicle. Much more so than you would ever imagine.
Wow. Well, I was pretty much speechless. Amazing. Wow.
All right, Bink, a little bit of a two-parter here. Do you have a favorite or least favorite part about being the Bionicle webmaster?
Favorite and or less favorite. The favorite part is being able to successfully launch something that you guys like. It's really that simple. It's really about knowing that I've gotten out there and I've hit a home run and pleased the fans. I haven't always felt that way. For example, the Mystica game, there were a lot of issues that we had to overcome to get that live, and it was months late, and it didn't do quite what we had wanted it to. But it was a tough road to go. But when I got things ready for 2010, for the first half of 2010 here for the Stars launch, it was really important to me to be able to wrap that up correctly. And I think, now maybe I'm tooting my own horn, but I think I managed to really deliver a satisfying conclusion to the Bionicle saga, working very, very closely with Greg, working very closely with the global marketing team, with Advance in Copenhagen, and with several other people to really understand what it is that you guys want. How would you like this to end? And for me, having been a fan, it was really not easy, but it was pretty obvious to me what needed to happen. It needed to have a good ending. We needed to be able to continue the story, which Greg is going to do, and we needed to, do stuff that we haven't quite done before, and do it in a way that is going to not feel cheap. For instance, how are we going to portray the ending of this whole franchise, or at least the Mata Nui cycle, which is what I've been calling it. The last 9 years has really been the Mata Nui cycle. The universe is wider than that, but that's what we've been focusing on. How are we going to end that? Do we do a movie? Well, I don't have millions of dollars to throw at it for CGI. Can we do a machinima based on the Glatorian Arena engine? We could do that, but would that look cheap in comparison? Maybe. Could we do Flash? We have, but that's kind of 2003. I know a lot of people would have liked to have seen that, but really, at the end, it's all about telling a story. What's going to get us the most? Well, clearly tying in something from the Legend Reborn movie is going to be the best bet so that there's continuity. So we worked really hard, and I had a lot of help from some people internally getting that to happen. And actually, a high point of my career was being able to go down to LA and be in the recording studio with Michael Dorn as he's recording the script that I wrote. There's nothing really that kind of compares to that. So coming back to the question, to answering the question, what's the best part? The best part is being able to go, okay, you guys, I think I know what you want. Here you go. And being able to see that this is what you want. The second part of your question, which is what's not so great about it, it's kind of hard sometimes when I read comments from people who are, oh, well, obviously Lego's stupid, Lego didn't do this, Lego doesn't care, Lego blah, blah, blah. And it's all couched in, like company Lego doesn't know what's going on, but a company is made up of people. And generally the people have a pretty good idea of what's going on, but there are also a lot of different things going on that don't get public and shouldn't get public about, not bad things. It's just, it takes a lot of work to do some of these things, and there are reasons why things happen the way they do. So sometimes it's hard to read that criticism and not take it to heart and not take it personally. I haven't really had any issues with it recently myself. I think Greg has it 100 times more than I do, and I don't have the thick skin that he does. He's really great about being able to explain things in a pretty calm manner. I'm a little bit more feisty, so I tend not to answer those just because I don't hold back. I don't toe the company line. I just like, what? Are you kidding? Didn't you read this? But thankfully, those are pretty few and far between. So I guess the best and the worst comes from the same source, which is pleasing fans.
E.T. was able to join us in this call, so you got a question for Bink Electric Track?
Okay, so, Bink, what is the exact job title you have, and what is it you do over there?
You asked me the job title, but not what I do, so I can answer what I do. My title is Internet Content Manager for Construction, and what I really do is I manage the content for the websites, for all the construction websites, for Ben 10, Bionicle, and soon Hero Factory. What that means is I determine what the layout's going to be, I determine what pages are going to be there, I determine what content is going to be there, I manage the creation or acquisition of assets. That could be video, that could be flat graphics, that can be audio, it can be text, it can be whatever. And then I'm responsible for managing the budget for all that and putting it together and making sure that it delivers for the marketing goals and for the marketing regions goals, because they can be slightly different, and making sure that the sites launch on time. I have to work within some constraints. We have resources that we need to use within Lego, and so everybody has to play nice and play together.
All right, sounds like quite a lot.
It is quite a lot.
A lot more interesting than our jobs, huh?
Yeah, I'm a fry cook.
Alright, well, I've also got kind of a two-part question here for you, Bink. First being, will you remain the webmaster for the foreseeable future?
I will. I will be the webmaster for Bionicle and Bionicle Story. I will also be the internet content manager, web guy, I guess you'd call it. I'll be the web guy for Hero Factory. And there are potentially other things too at some point, and who knows, I might switch over and do other things within the company, but for the foreseeable future, I'm planning on maintaining Bionicle Story, phasing out Bionicle, and pumping up Hero Factory.
Alright, and the second part of my question is, you mentioned managing Bionicle.com and BionicleStory.com. I just wanted to know if Bionicle.com will get updates as often as Bionicle Story, now that that's where Greg will be continuing the story. As in, will Bionicle.com stop being updated while Bionicle Story continues?
The last product updates have been done. As a matter of fact, just before this interview, I was working on the last of the local language sites. In fact, it's the Russian site that I'm working on that we're trying to get ready for a Monday release. After those go live, we've got several scheduled updates. We've got the Matanui Saga being updated twice a week. We have Journey's End being updated weekly. Those will both be updated through the end of April. At that point, there won't be any more updates to bionicle.com, and then we have an exit strategy that we're working on for that. There will be something on bionicle.com that encourages people to go visit the Hero Factory website when that comes online, because we do think that the people who are interested in Bionicle will probably have an affinity for Hero Factory products as well.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Judging by your Brickshelf account, I'd say you like to muck a lot. What are some of your favorite creations?
Well, I don't mock as much as I'd like to. I actually haven't built much recently. Having my collection on 2 different continents has kind of hurt the creative license and the juices being able to sit down and build something. Probably the one that I've gotten the most attention for has been my motorized Stargate. It's motorized, it lights up, it's about 18 inches tall, driven by an RCX. That's my favorite one. I also am part of the Greater Portland Lego Railroaders local club in Oregon, and they're all a bunch of Lego railroad heads. They love making fun of Bionicles, so just to tweak them, I made a Bionicle train. I put a Transmiru on the front and put a light behind that, and it actually works pretty well. It's got a lot of armor and stuff on it, and it looks pretty nasty.
I'd say my favorite one of your creations, although it wouldn't be considered an MOC, was the Rakshi thumb drive.
Yeah, that. I have no idea where that went off to, but yeah, that was a fun project.
I'd definitely like to have one of those. No idea how to go about making one, though.
Well, there are tiny little USB drives that you could probably glue in there now.
Oh, okay.
I think, we know that Bionicle is going to be continuing, but what do you see in BZ Power's future?
Ooh, good question. I'm actually being pestered daily by Black 6 to provide my further input on that. We've had some discussions about what's going on with that. He and Dimensioneer and I have, kind of been talking about what is it that we're going to be doing and what's the focus for BZ Power. You rest assured, it's not going away. All the plans that are put on the table for it just keep it growing steadily. And as a matter of fact, the way I see it is BZ Power is one of the biggest and busiest Lego fan websites on the net. It's certainly bigger and better than most of the other forums out there. And it has the added benefit that it's aimed at having kids being able to join and post as well. Most of the others are adults only, either 13 or above or 18 or above. BZ Power is really kid-friendly, and I know the staff works very hard to keep it that way. So there's absolutely no reason that shouldn't be a huge drawing point for if the decision is to expand it or whatever. I think there's lots of things that can be done, and I'm pretty confident that it will continue to grow, flourish, and remain true to its roots too.
Perfect.
Okay, well, again, sorry if this has already been asked, I don't know or not, but if somebody's looking for a job in the Lego company, what would be your thing you recommend most for them?
I guess it would depend on what kind of job you're looking for. There are all sorts of positions open. Everybody tends to really gravitate towards the set designer one because that's kind of the most obvious ones for people who like to build. But there's all sorts of other things. I'm not known as a builder.
Right.
There's a fair amount of work that's available. For instance, in Lego Universe, a lot of very technical and graphic work. In the digital department, there's a lot of opportunities there. A lot of this, though, you have to be willing to live in Denmark, which is not a bad thing at all. Denmark is actually a very nice place, and I really enjoyed my stay there for a year and a half. It was a nice place. And who knows, I may be going back there permanently at some point in the future. But that is, for a lot of the things that you want to do, kind of a prerequisite. There's also the office here in the U.S., and I understand that they are growing as well, and there's quite a bit going on there. As far as specific suggestions, really, again, it comes down to what it is you want to do. If you want to be in marketing, if you want to be in design, if you want to be in the creative portion of it, there's no standard way of going through a career path. Clearly, stay in school, get a college degree. It could be in design, it could be in industrial engineering, it could be in software development, it could be in graphic design. Any of those kinds of things. But it's funny because this question gets asked quite a lot, especially to the designers, and I kind of sit back and listen to the answers, and there have been all sorts of people who work for Bionicle as designers who have done some pretty wild things in the past. People who were like bakers, or that's the one I remember. Quite an array of different skill sets that go into it. So some are industrial design engineers, some are graphic arts majors, some are sculptors, some are painters. For instance, Brian Ellis, who did the wonderful artwork we have for the Motunui Saga, was a set designer, but he's also a fine artist, as I'm sure you'll all have noticed. So just be good at what you do. Have a passion for it. Be willing to relocate. Be willing to be flexible. It's not unheard of. There are more and more AFOLs joining the company every year. It's good to see people with a passion be able to get into a job where they can really affect change in what they're passionate about.
Right. Well, mostly it's what you do that I'm most interested in, so it's awesome to be able to do something like that in the future. Still got to go to school, though.
Yeah, school helps.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, the last question that we have prepared for you, I'm not sure if anybody has last-minute ones, but I wanted to ask your opinion on the websites bzpower.com and biosector01.com as Bionicle fan sites.
How do I interact with them? I use them daily. Not so much Biosector01 daily, but it's a great resource when I have things that need to be done. For instance, when I was writing the Motunui Saga, I was on BS01 regularly. And it was a huge resource for me and had a ton of stuff on there that I didn't know. I mean, I'm in the middle of the company. I'm in the middle of the Bionicle project, and I had no clue some of the stuff that was going on, because sometimes Greg will answer a question on a forum which will have relevance to what I'm working on, but I won't hear about it. So I'll have to find out about it on Biosector01, which is great because that's a resource that's there for me to find out. I actually spend more time interacting with Easy Power, mostly because I'm looking to find out what people are thinking, what people are saying. One of my tasks within LEGO is to bring some of the fan reactions from the fan community and present that to the core people, because they don't always get the chance to go out and surf it themselves. So part of my job really is to help them understand what the kids are really thinking about what the company has been doing with Bionicle.
Yeah, I don't blame you for having to use the wiki as a resource tool. There's no way any one person could know all there is to know about Bionicle. The universe is so vast, and new information comes out every day.
Greg's the only one who has it in his head.
Right. Yeah. All right, any last-minute questions, guys?
I'm good. Thank you very much for your answers, being very insightful.
Yeah, no problem. Glad I can get them out. I've actually been kind of thinking about doing a blog post or something somewhere, kind of wrapping up my feelings about, having started with Bionicle in 2001 and now being one of the people instrumental in actually putting it to bed. So maybe I'll put together that blog post here pretty soon. I don't know, but this has also given me an opportunity to express some of that stuff here. For instance, talk about the Motunui Saga, talk about Journey's End, talk about the Agori game. At first I was going to call it the Toa Defender game, but I don't think that pun translates well. Yeah, it wasn't going to work. So Agori Defender, we're defending our Agori. But that one was actually my favorite game, just to kind of go off on a wild tangent for a second. I do like that game the best out of all the ones. It was the one that sprang most fully formed into my mind. I wrote a really tight spec document. The company that did it really followed that and added really great touches of their own. And so I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. And from the reaction that I've seen, I think everybody is pretty much okay with it, except for not having a save, which, too bad, sorry. Sorry if I sound callous, but no. But everybody seems pretty happy with it, so that's good to hear.
All right, well, thank you for joining us again for this interview, Bink. We'll be moving on for the rest of the show without you, so you can get to where you need to go. But before you leave, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners, Bionicle fans?
Thank you for being such a loyal group, such a steadfast group, and such an interesting group to bounce ideas across. Love it or hate it, there's no ambiguity from you guys. It's always, the passion is out there on the sleeve, and I appreciate that. So it's been fun to work on this and to bring you really cool stuff that I think you can appreciate.
Yeah, and we definitely appreciate you listening to us and interacting on BZ Power and such, and of course for coming on the podcast. So
No
we'll
problem.
see you around, and thanks again. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks. I will talk to you again later.
All right, bye.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
And that wraps up this interview. I'd like to remind everybody that you can continue listening to the show by downloading episode 5 of the BS01 podcast, where we discuss the 5th comic, the Mask of Light movie, answer a lot of listener questions, and more. Thanks for listening.